So today we are joined by Aaron Boone from Heber City, Utah. Did I mess that up?
That's it. We're just
Okay.
right outside of Park City. That's more familiar.
So Aaron is not the Aaron Boone that we're thinking of that hit the home run off Tim Wakefield in 2003. This is a very different Aaron Boone for all you Red Sox fans out there. So he is the founder of MVP Mailhouse, and he's going to talk to us about the advancements in direct mail for dental offices. If you go to Deals for Dentists, you'll find MVP Mailhouse's promo listing in the marketing and patient acquisition category. So this is a very exclusive deal for Deals for Dentists, and it's pretty cool. You get a free Map IQ patient heat map analysis and direct mail proposal. You get a free 500 referral handout cards, which is a $500 value with sign up of any package. And you get $250 off your intro campaign of 10,000 cards. So now, is that Heatmap? Is that like in that movie Predator where he can see through infrared? And is that the same thing?
It's actually not far off. So we've built some proprietary software we call Map IQ. And basically what I found where I get my best results with direct mail, and just as a quick introduction, all we work with is dental practices and all we do is direct mail. So we are specialists in this and eat, sleep, drink this all day, every day. So what I have found over 10 years of doing this is where I get my best results. You know, it sounds really simple, but it is mailing to the neighbors of your current patients. Well, how do you do that? How do you know where they live? How do you identify that? We've built software that does all of that. So we basically pin drop out your existing patients. That's what that heat map is. We'll show you exactly where they're coming from, distance to practice, geographical barriers, mental barriers. It's really interesting to study patient data of how they migrate to practices. So for example, offices that are just outside a big city, it is really hard to pull patients out of a city to come out to you. It's a lot easier to catch them on their way to the city. And I've done this for hundreds of offices, and we pin this out. And anyway, that's I'll show you exactly where people are coming from, and I'll show you lookalike neighborhoods to those hot neighborhoods that you already have. So that's what the Map IQ is. Regardless of what type of marketing you're doing, it's really interesting to look at that data.
So we're actually just a bunch of athletes here just talking. I played a semester of tennis at Tulane, and Joseph here played club volleyball at UMass. Aaron is your cliche story where gutsy kid from Utah, grew up on a goat farm, makes the team, University in Kentucky, has a 9-year pro career, and ends up retiring and going to the dental direct mail. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that story, I'd have 5 cents. But it's quite the story. How did this happen? How did you end up with founding MVP Mailhouse?
Great question. So yeah, I didn't grow up necessarily dreaming of being a dental marketer by any means. I grew up milking goats and dreaming of the day that I would no longer be on that farm and be able to move far, far away. So you know what I did learn? I did get really big, strong hands from milking goats. We hand milked all the goats. Not that exciting. I don't recommend it. I have no desire to do it again. But my ticket out of town, so to speak, was I felt was through sports, and I worked my butt off as a undersized. I was a quarterback in high school, switched to receiver, walked on to a small junior college, and was the #1 receiver in the country a couple years later. And I had a lot of options and kind of looked around. I chose Kentucky. SEC football was exciting to me, and I went to a team that was throwing the ball a lot. Some people out there may remember those sports buffs. Jared Lorenzen, a big 300-pound quarterback out of Kentucky. Yeah. He won a Super Bowl with Eli's backup with the Giants. That guy was over 300 pounds, but man, he could throw the ball. So he was my quarterback, and he threw it to me a lot. So we had a great run there in the SEC, and scored a lot of touchdowns, and some pro teams looked at me, and next thing I knew, I was signed with the Dallas Cowboys. So it was kind of a whirlwind kind of bang bang thing. But yeah, no, I was definitely not the highly touted, highly recruited. No one's recruiting on goat farms nowadays. And but I had a chance to live out a childhood dream and play in some pretty cool stadiums and with some good teammates. So from the Cowboys to the Bears to the Panthers to NFL Europe, Berlin Thunder was my team. We won a World Bowl, Super Bowl over there. And then, yeah, had a couple injuries, unfortunately, and started playing arena football. Bon Jovi signed me. He owned a team in Philadelphia, and I got to play there for a little bit, and I got traded. And anyway, wound up back in Utah with the Utah Blaze, and had a great arena career. Anyway, finally had to get a real job. I never got rich and famous. I don't own any Papa John's franchises or steakhouses or anything like that. But I got to play a lot of football, and man, for a kid like me, that was just dream come true. Like, I just loved the game. I didn't get caught up in all the politics or the big money. I just wanted to play football, and I loved it. And so anyway, that's my story. So yeah, how did I get into marketing? Well, I have a father-in-law, a number of uncles that are dentists. I was not smart enough, and I can blame it on concussions. I don't know. But anyway, I didn't go down the dental route, but I work exclusively with dentists all day, every day, and have for about 10 years now. I started my own company, MVP, which stands for Most Valuable Practice, about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. And we've been running with it ever since then. And I think what's really differentiated us in the space was and is still data and analytics. The same thing that can make or break a contract in pro sports, right? Is what I want in dental marketing. If you're going to spend $1 on marketing, in my opinion, you should know what you're getting back. And I really love the way that we're able to show the software we're using. It's all about the analytics. I mean, seriously, like in football, they were tracking everything. How many reps you were lifting, how many ounces of water you were drinking, how many hours of sleep you're getting. A college roommate of mine is one of the strength coaches for the Dallas Mavericks to this day. And it is ridiculous, the amount of analytics that they analyze, right down to predicting injuries coming. Like, it's crazy. But I've brought a lot of that to direct mail to be able to better target. When someone does a direct mail piece, does it matter where you mail it? Does it matter what these offers are? Does it matter the design, the images, what you put on the front versus the back? I argue it does. And I have data over tens of millions of cards that I've mailed for dentists that show that. And so anyway, that's kind of how I've evolved into the space and kind of taken direct mail, this old kind of proven marketing medium that's kind of archaic to some, and brought technology and software to it to better predict where you should hit, what you should mail them, and then control the variables through the process. So anyway, long answer. Sorry about that, but that's where we're at.
So you're very niche because you only focus on dental offices, which I think is really important because, I have a specific dental CPA that specializes in dental offices, a lawyer that specializes in dental offices. So the fact that you're just focusing on dental offices, I think is pretty cool and important. So direct mail is not dead. It's alive and well. Is that, and you're gonna tell us, for anyone out there who thinks that direct mail is dead, they're wrong, right? It's still a very viable option for marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say direct mail done right, but that's no different than digital marketing done right. You can lose a lot of money in the digital space. You can lose a lot of money listening to promises of a #1 ranking and all these things. Every digital provider out there promises the world, but do they actually execute, and will they show you along the way? Our business model, MVP, is be very transparent of every single call, every single appointment, right down to production that comes from your mailing when it hits homes. Whether you're a pediatric practice, whether you're an orthodontist, whether you're a general or a specialist, your message needs to fit who you are, right? So I kind of break it down into a couple things of where I find, because as I've talked to dentists over the years, there's kind of, some offices have a love-hate relationship with direct mail. Others have never tried it because they think it's so outdated. And other ones, that's all they do. And they have been living on it for years and years and years, literally mailing every single month. And I have some offices that mail every 2 weeks. Like, we're talking like 15,000 cards every 2 weeks. Well, when I do their audits, literally in the first year, and this is an extreme case, no doubt about it, 9 months in, he had already collected $1 million in production just from his direct mail. So my thing is this, is if whatever marketing you're doing, you're going to invest some money. what you get back is how you should determine what you should continue to do, right? It's if you're throwing beautiful, all right, I'll use Tom Brady since you're a Pats fan, but if you're throwing perfect touchdown passes to a receiver and they're dropping them, how many times are you going to keep throwing there? You might train, you might give them another chance, but if you keep not performing, you're cut. Pro sports is a performance-based business. I believe dental marketing should be just the same. And to be able to be transparent in that, there's a lot of variables that need to be controlled. I break it down into basically 4 steps. Number 1, the homes you target. Okay, that's where we've built some really cool technology called Map IQ, where we analyze your area and have a higher level of predictability of success depending on what neighborhoods you mail to. As you start getting too far from your practice, results go down. As you start jumping over major interstates, rivers, lakes, results go down. So don't direct mail, historically, they just kind of draw a big circle and do a 2-mile radius. How many times have I heard that? 3-mile radius. You can do up to 5 miles. Like there's a lot of really bad, I guess, general rules of thumb out there because no one's actually tracking it and finding out what's working. So instead of that, we create a custom plan based on historical data and some of these things. So the areas you target, number 1. Number 2 is the design and the message that I briefly spoke about, right down to the offers. So for example, if you are a cash, more fee-for-service practice versus a high insurance practice, your offer should change. You want to speak to insurance patients, okay? If you put a $99 exam x-ray in front of an insurance patient, that means nothing to me because I look at that as free, like it's part of my plan or whatever it is, right? So understanding that and being able to track to know what's working. If you mail 3 offers on a card, well, who called about 1, 2, 3? Which one worked best? If you're throwing to 3 receivers, where are you getting your best results from? Well, you want to keep going there, right? So we tie all that together. How do we do it? Well, this is step 3 is there's got to be accountability. Okay. And the accountability typically of what happens when these leads come in. When that phone rings into your office, number 1, is it being answered? And this is where we help hold your front desk accountable. Because I don't care if you have like a blimp flying over town or over Gillette Stadium. If no one's answering the phone calls, it is really hard to schedule new patients. In fact, I've found only about 10% of first-time callers will schedule an appointment, will leave a voicemail if they call and you don't answer the phone. So that's a big part of any success. So with our mailings, every card has a tracking phone number on it, right? Call tracking isn't new. Most people have heard of call tracking. It just means that we put a local number on your card that rings to your main line. You guys answer it just like any other call. We don't answer it. Your front desk does, okay? Now, because it's recorded, we then listen to the recordings within 24 hours. It's not that fun to listen to recordings all day, I promise, but it's eye-opening of what's actually happening on those calls. But because we listen to it, we're tracking on the back end what offer was requested. Was it a cash patient? Was it an insurance patient? What type of services were they asking for? And based on that, we can, 1, help correct any front desk problems there are with free tips and training. Trust me, we want your front desk to do a good job just like you do. So we provide free front desk tips and training because we literally listen and score every single call you get from the postcards, okay? When you do a second mailing, we put a new phone number on. So you're gonna know exactly who called from the first mailing, let's say to the north, versus your second mailing to the southwest. See that? So each time you mail, you have a new tracking number on there. So we're able to identify exactly who they're calling from. Even if they call 6 months from now, you'll know it was from your December mailing to the north, not your newest June mailing. Okay, so that's that tracking component. It's the front desk component that is really important for any marketing. And it's so important to have information of what's happening at that front desk. And then the 4th one is really making an audit where we link everything together. So at the end of, let's say, a 3 mailing campaign, let's say in 4 months from now, I have you run a new patient report of all new patients that you've had since you started mailing. But I also run my report because I have every phone number that called this number. I also have every name that we heard on the recordings because we chart all of that. And I do an audit, because what I always find is you're going to have some people that I don't know about. Maybe they walked in with the card and never used that phone number, right? I'm going to have some people you don't know about, meaning, hey, how'd you hear about us? Oh, I'm on your website, but they're calling from this number. Your front desk thinks it's the website. So when we do this audit, typically I'm seeing anywhere from another 40, I've seen as high as 70% of patients that you didn't even know about came from the postcard. So that's where it's understanding doing this audit. And that's what most people aren't willing to put in the man hours. I don't know of companies out there that are willing to, but I have found that's where all the information really is. What did you really get when you mailed out 10,000 pieces, 5,000 pieces? And that's that fourth component. And then based on that, you're able as a doctor, as a dentist, to make informed decisions and make better decisions moving forward. Okay, as we renew, do we change some of these areas that aren't responding? Do we change the design? Now we can put together, draw conclusions, and you're going to have a true ROI, true number of patients. And that's just in the short term. Those patients will continue to come back, refer friends and family. And when we do another audit in another 4 months, you'll actually see that. And that's where it gets really cool, is the snowball effect of family member 2 and 3, where family member number 1 called from the card.
Well, I think
so, yeah,
that's so important, especially nowadays during the COVID era, where our overhead is up, our wages are the same, our chair time is down. We have to be so careful with our spending. And let's face it, if you're not tracking and measuring, then you don't know if a campaign is working. I'm sure the old ways of direct mail was you just blindly sent out, like you said, a specific radius, and you just threw it against the wall and see what sticks. And it was just kind of blind. Whereas you're taking it kind of to the new era of more of a data driven type of campaign, and you're able to track. You're able to see if it's working. If it's not, then tweak it and fix it. And also on the accountability side with the office, that most important piece of equipment in the office is the phone. Yes. So you could have a $1,000 CAD cam or cone beam CT scan machine, but if you're not getting patients in the chair, and I have my own data, it's TIC, it's tuchus in chair. So you got to get the tuchus in the chair. If you're not getting them in the chair, if something's not going right with the front desk or the phones, then all that money you're spending on that campaign is worthless. So I really think that's so important to be able to track your ROI. And now, how has your business changed during COVID? Have you been busier, or what's your feedback been?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I have a unique perspective because I work with offices across the country, and I've seen exactly firsthand how it's affected different practices, in different states and different areas, rural versus urban, et cetera. Us particular, obviously, we went to a standstill, just like most of you offices. I mean, I was the first one to say, don't spend $1 in direct mail right now if you're closed. It doesn't make any sense, right? Outside of emergencies and things like that. But there's better ways via online to attract those emergencies specifically, right? Because otherwise you're kind of shooting a needle in a haystack, so to speak. All right, who out there needs an emergency, right? It just doesn't make sense. So we held off most all mailings. Now, one of the beauties for those couple months, and then it came back. One of the unique things about our program too is most direct mail companies out there. Now, very few just work with dentists, right? Most are working with your local pizza joint and dry cleaners, and they don't really fully understand the industry, and that hurts your results, right? They come across as experts, which they are in direct mail in general, but not specifically for a dental practice. Understanding seasonality, understanding different messages that drive. Well, one thing unique about us is I don't pre-print like a year's worth of cards or 6 months worth of cards. I don't pre-print anything. And let's say you sign up for a 6 mailing campaign, okay, with most anyone out there. they're going to pre-print all 6 months of your cards because they make more money by pre-printing. However, the downside of that is you're stuck with the same message. Well, what if it doesn't work very well in the first couple of mailings? You're stuck with 50,000 cards in your back office that you got to figure out what to do with, right? So that happened during COVID with a lot of people. They had pre-printed cards and they weren't able to change the message when they opened back up in June and July to let people know they're COVID friendly, they've taken these next precautions, and all of our cards across, the board. In fact, a lot of our offices, we're putting, masks on our images. We're putting staff photos with just COVID friendly messaging. So offices feel so potential patients feel more comfortable. So another example is right now, if you file insurance on 50% or more of your current patients, well, right now can be a great time to market because there is an unprecedented number of people out there with unused benefits this year. Okay, if you're just a cash, I don't recommend mailing late November, December. But if you're insurance, there are a lot of people, potentially hundreds, if not thousands, depending on where you're at, with unused benefits. Okay, and it's not really top of mind. People just didn't come in earlier in the year. They didn't establish care anywhere. And here they are coming on in the year and they're like, they almost need that reminder to get them over. So back to your question about post-COVID, response rates for us, for many of our offices, have actually skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. And why? Well, think about it. How many more people are working from home, at home, not working, vice versa? But it's almost like getting the mail became an event for a lot of these households. It like got you out of the house to see the light of day and at least walk down to the end of the block and get your mail for some of these suburban areas. And, I know my family, we leashed up the dog and grabbed the kids and they were so tired of doing schoolwork at home. And we walked down to get the mail. And man, I don't think I do this for a living. I don't think I've ever analyzed my mail as much. So response rates have actually came up. And right now, specifically, you have kind of a double-edged sword. One, more people are home looking at their mail. Two, you have a lot of people with unused benefits. So for high insurance practices, if you're in the 80-90%, you should always look at doing an end-of-year campaign and then a start-of-year campaign. Because as you go into January, February, March, January is the number one month of the year, along with August, kind of that back to school. But December is up there. It's pretty good. I think it finished third or fourth last year as far as response rate by month. So yeah, we track everything down to the weeks of the year. So I'll give you a quick pro tip here. I don't mail the last 2 weeks of November. And the reason why, it's not actually because of Thanksgiving, it's because of the saturation of Black Friday mail. I don't want to get lost in the middle of a Costco and Walmart ad and nobody sees your card, right? So, but if you can get in homes those first couple of weeks of November, response rates are great. Same thing in December, first couple of weeks of December. But if you're scheduled out or booked through December, don't mail in December, right? Because people are going to want to be seen quickly, most likely to use their benefits in those early December mailings. Okay. And then as you transition to the new year, it's all about new year, new benefits, new you. And that's another beauty of being dynamic with the design and not pre-printing months in advance. So anyway, sorry, a lot of information. Hopefully that's helpful to some. I don't know.
So will you start an end of year campaign around October, like right around now?
Yeah, typically we'll do, because most of my areas, I like to have 3 different drops or zones. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is those off, you can mail literally every month and you only hit the same home once every quarter. So October, November, December, they each get an end of year message. Then you come back January, they haven't had a card now for 4 months, but they get a New Year's message, new benefits. Mm-hmm. And when you're mailing to 5,000 homes or 10,000 homes, you only need a handful of patients to maybe their situation changed, maybe they're a new mover, maybe they just lost their dental benefits with their company and they need an in-house plan or whatever it might be. And then you can come back around tax return time, April, May, June, beat the summer rush, then the back to school message, and then the end. So even if you mail every month of the year, you're changing that message. Mm-hmm. And when you get, what a lot of people do is they find some success with direct mail, but then they don't improvise. They don't continue to improve it. How well does that work in the NFL? If you just keep running the same play over and over and over again, you're going to get diminishing returns, right? In direct mail, it's no different. You'll get diminishing returns and you'll get oversaturation to areas. If you just keep hitting the same area every single 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever your mailing cycle is. So we help you with strategy based on results of practices all across the country. So as offices comes to us, I don't expect you to be a direct mail expert. In fact, I've rarely had any that are. It's such this niche thing, like you're saying, but we want to bring that expert level to you and all the experience in the world to make it really easy for our offices.
I think that we use that end of year campaign. We send a letter to patients. It's that, and like you said, the beginning of the year when you have fresh new benefits is really the only time that I will use insurance as a driving force to move forward, get patients to move forward with treatment. Usually it's a barrier and it's a crutch, but end of year, use it or lose it type of message. And then the beginning of the year, hey, you have a fresh new year of benefits are such great ways to motivate patients.
One thought on that. So we actually have 2 products now. So one is we can mail to your existing base, just like you said, no new patients, just your existing patient base as an end of year reminder or New Year, whatever, maybe you bring on an associate, whatever you want to do. It's called My Patient Mail, where we can either do a postcard or we can do letter envelope, and that's to your existing base. So you would provide the addresses, right? Mm-hmm. Our other one is MVP Mail, and that's where we would mail to all of your patients' neighbors, so to speak. Mm-hmm. We put together that plan, and that's specifically to drive new blood, new patients to your office. So just to make sure you knew we had both programs.
Such a great idea that you're focusing on, the neighbors of, you have this great pocket of patients from, great neighborhoods. Why not, try to get the rest of the neighbors and focus in that area instead of just sending out your campaign blindly to a zip code or, to a radius.
In general, I hear it all the time. Oh, I want to hit these zip codes. I'm like, direct mail's evolved. We don't have to be this broad. Let's hone it down into these hottest neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And if you really think about a neighborhood, your neighborhood, typically you find like-minded people, similar income, similar demographics in kind of these pockets of neighborhoods. The big sexy thing on Facebook is the lookalike audience, right? Hitting lookalike audience. We're doing the same thing, just via direct mail.
Now, how important is this to, get the staff on board? You're about to send out a big campaign. Maybe you have a promotion that you're trying to promote. To get that staff on board and get that culture on board, do you actually have a conversation with the doctor or the office manager on how to get the staff, kind of pulling together in the same direction?
Absolutely. So it's interesting you say that, and I've seen this across the board, is the last thing we want to have happen is when that first call comes in and Mary answers the desk, hey, I'd like to be a new patient, and I'm interested in, I don't know, whatever this is, a free whitening after paid exam, x-ray clean, whatever it is. And the first thing she says is, oh, I didn't know we had an offer. Or I didn't, you called from a what? And there's confusion, right? That's a bad thing. You want everyone to be a well-oiled machine. Challenge is, you dentists, you're busy, right? You get excited about something. How many times have you came back from a conference or trade show or whatever, you signed up for something but forgot to let your team know, and then all of a sudden, they're caught off guard? Well, we help with that. So as we get you onboarded, we work through the design. We do all of the artwork. We make it super easy for you. We do all of the targeting. You just do the approvals and feedback. So it takes little pieces of your time, a minute here and a minute there, rather than being overwhelmed, sitting down for hours, figuring out how to design a card, right? We do all that. Once you approve your design and we go to print, it takes 13 days for us to print, address, ship cards hitting homes. And logistically, we have some expenses and time things on the back that we do so you don't have to worry about it. We time this down to where we know within a 48-hour window of when they're going to hit homes. So for example, I don't want these hitting on a Saturday or a Friday because you're going to get a lower response as you would if you hit a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I want it earlier in the week. Well, you don't have time to deal with that. We do. So we do things logistically to make that happen. In fact, we pay extra to drop ship our cards. So I don't mail them out of Park City, Utah, and trust my, and cross my fingers, they're going to get to Boston on a Friday afternoon and then delivered on a Monday, Tuesday. Instead, we use third-party shipping companies all around the country to take your whole pallet of cards so none get lost, and they're presented at your local post office or sorting facility where they're stamped, approved. So that's an extra expense on our end, but it's going to improve results because we can target specific in-home dates. So anyway, I'm kind of nerding out on a lot of information here. Sorry. But anyhow, as they hit homes, a few days before they hit homes, so let's say they're planning on hitting homes on Monday, we set up a front desk kickoff call, typically that Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday before. So it's fresh on everyone's mind. Sometimes the dentist joined us. Sometimes it's just the front desk. Sometimes it's office manager front desk. But we go over front desk training. Okay. We've listened to literally tens of thousands and thousands of calls. We've seen what the best front desk people across the country do. And we want to share any tips we can, because the better your front desk is, the better our mailings are going to do. It's that simple, right? So let me give you an example. And back to the stats and the analytics. When a call comes in, I told you that if missed, only 10% leave a voicemail, right? Well, what percentage of your calls are being missed right now? Of incoming calls that we see, this is over years of data, over 30% of calls are missed or unanswered. And not all of them are outside business hours. Some might be during lunch. We'll stagger lunches so someone's there to take phone calls. Come in 30 minutes early. Stay open till 5:30 because you have so many people calling right after they get off work. So there's little windows where you can fix some problems regardless of where people are coming from. You want to identify that for your practice, right? So we help you with that. So on that kickoff call, we go over some stats. Here's a free pearl for every office out there. Here's a cool one. When a person calls in, they typically, if they schedule one appointment. And the front desk says something like this: okay, great, Stephanie. We look forward to seeing you Tuesday at 2:00. Have a good day. Bye. You hang up. Instead of hanging up, say, great, Tiffany, I got you scheduled for Tuesday at 2:00. Now, is there anyone else in the family that I should go ahead and schedule at this time? If you will ask, 15% of the time you'll schedule a second appointment. It's the easiest thing to do, but is your front desk doing that on every single call? Well, if you're not tracking them, you don't know. That's why, back to football, every play is recorded. Are you doing the little things during practice, during weights that come into the game? So when you get a real call. So little tips like that, I want your team to know. And that's why we do that kickoff call. And then as you start getting calls, we can give you real feedback on real calls. These aren't like mystery shopper calls that some people try to do, because most of the time the front desk knows that it's a shopper call anyway. It's a fake call. These are real calls of real potential patients and what's happening on those. I've many a times, unfortunately, I've let a dentist know, hey, I think you should listen to this recording. I'm not sure if this is how you want your calls handled. And, just one recently, a couple of weeks ago, was they gave pricing on a full mouth $25,000 case. And that's what she said. Oh yeah, that sounds like you're probably going to be like full mouth restoration. You're looking at about $25,000. Now, who's going to schedule an appointment when they hear that number, right? Like, you just don't have a frame of reference. So, hey, well, yeah, it sounds like, we could definitely help you with that. Dr. Smith does a lot of these type of cases. Right now, we're running an offer for a free exam or free evaluation or free second opinion or whatever you may have in that specific scenario. Why don't we get you scheduled and have you come in? Dr. Smith can take a look at you and let you know exactly what you need, what pricing would look like, et cetera. So do mornings or afternoons work better for you? Now you went totally away from giving a price over the phone, right? So it's not that people are, sometimes there's this misconception in front desks that if someone asks about price, they're just a price shopper or they're going to be a bad patient. Don't you want to know price on things, right? Like as a person, the problem is the front desk is a bad person to give price because often it's inaccurate. They don't know the full situation. Hey, how much is a crown? Well, what tooth is it? What type of material is it? It's my example is this. If you walk into Foot Locker, you need some shoes. You don't walk in, hey, how much for a size 13 shoe? what is it? A basketball? Is it a flip flop? Is it tennis shoes? All of those are going to vary depending on on what your use is, just like what tooth it is. So I think you're doing a disservice by giving pricing over the phone, and it's something that should be addressed with your front desk. So anyway, sorry, long-winded answers. I know I'm passionate about what I do, obviously, if you can't tell, but we pass those tips on, and then we're going to let you know what's happening and provide free feedback and training to your front desk based on how they're handling those calls.
So it really sounds like an all-encompassing program from, the patient's entire journey, from the time, the pre-planning of where you're going to send these cards, the actual message of the card, what happens when the actual person, the patient, calls from that card, and you're tracking all of that. I like the fact that you pointed out that the return on investment. I mean, the return on investment, if you get a few patients out of this, pays for the campaign itself, but within each of those patients, there could be other family members, so you could get 2 or 3 or 4 just from that one card because of a family. So that's and if you're not tracking that, then you don't know if it's what your return on investment is from it. So you really, like you said, got to track it and audit that data. Now, can you actually, I think it's really important, like you said, that transition of that, when that patient calls, to really get that staff on the same page and what the message is. Can you actually, from your audit, kind of zero in on each staff member and who's got, the KPIs of who's getting patients to, tuck us in the chair, who's getting them in the chair, who's not, and the ones who aren't, how can we help them?
Yes. So you're absolutely right. So back to this, we do what's called a front desk scorecard. Mm-hmm. I love holding everyone accountable, even us. If your phone's not ringing, well, whose fault's that? That's not your front desk. That's not you as a dentist. That's either the homes we targeted or the design that we mailed or what day it hit homes, right? There's only so many variables that are going to get that phone to ring. But as it rings, now that accountability transitions over to the front desk. As we score each call, we tag it to whoever in your office, whether it's Nancy, Stephanie, whoever took that call. And when we do this scorecard, it benchmarks you amongst your peers at your office, but also nationally, what your closing rate is versus other offices. It's a pretty cool little scorecard that where you kind of have like a benchmark, for lack of a better word. It's probably the best word for it, is to see where you stack up, where you stand. And although this is just reflective of the postcard calls, typically, depending on how you answer these calls, maybe these are 10% of your calls, 20% of your calls. In most cases, that's how they're handling the rest of your calls, right? Because that is their skill set. And what I suggest is train them. We're going to know who your leader is pretty quickly. It's very, I mean, you see it. This person has 40% closing rate, where these guys have 70 to 80%. There's normally that 1 or 2 anomalies. And in their defense, normally that isn't their main role. Sometimes it's a hygienist grabbing a phone, or an assistant or something that's not necessarily that trained assassin that is really good at the phone desk. But regardless, that was $1,000 patient potentially, plus their family, plus their friends. So I look at it really black and white like this. When in football, if I'm getting thrown a ball in the end zone, it is worth 6 points. Doesn't matter how close it came to me, it is worth 6 points if I catch that. So when that phone rings in, one thing that I like offices to know is, what is your average new patient value? And I like to look specifically at the first 12 months. So most offices don't know this. Most dentists I talk to don't know this answer. Some have a ballpark idea. So here's my question. Over the first 12 months, what is a new patient worth to you? The good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's a pretty quick calculation. Run your new patient report over the last 12 months and look at that value, or those that have been in, now, normally, national average, I normally see about $750 to $1,250. Okay. So if you kind of go with the middle of that, if you're a pediatric practice, it's going to be lower. If you're a Medicaid practice, it's lower. But if you're doing any implants, and Invisalign, that number goes up. let's just say for general rule of thumb, $1,000 is what an average new patient's worth. And that includes the people that came in, like in this case, for $1 emergency and never converted anything, or a $59 exam x-rays. They came in, that's all they spent, they never came back. But the very next person that came in for that same offer spent $4,200. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So there is a number for every office. And my advice is to find what that is. But back to the front desk, when that phone rings, that is $1,000 call. What happened to it? Was it answered? Was it handled well? Did it convert? Did you catch that touchdown? And if you do, then like you said, chances are you're going to get a family member too, a friend, a coworker. There's a lot of tentacles to that one. So don't let that one slip away. In busy offices, this is harder for because you get so busy, right? There's so many people you're seeing. You're seeing 30, 40, 50 new patients a month. But I'm telling you, that one extra that fell through the crack, that adds up. That's another $12,000, just one a month, plus their network, their family, their friends. So that's why we created that missed call alert notification, because I want someone calling that person back relatively soon, because chances are they didn't leave you a voicemail. And we even have a script for it. So when you get alerted, hey, missed call alert. Hey, sorry, we just missed a call from this number. This is Smiley Dental. Were you calling to schedule a new patient appointment? Pause, let them talk. They called because they need a dentist, right? You don't call a tire shop unless you're genuinely looking for tires, right? You don't call a dental office unless you need a dentist. So anyway, we try to tell the front desk to be confident on that callback, right? And because they were calling with a need most likely.
Yeah, I never leave voicemails. So
yeah, right.
And if I did call someone and no one answered, I'm not going to leave a voicemail. But if they call me back fairly soon, and I recognize that number, I'm probably going to answer it. So I think that's important too. If you did miss the call, which you really shouldn't, you should stagger your lunches. Like you said, come in a little early, come in a little later, make sure that phone is being answered, have enough lines, enough staff, because that's the most important piece of equipment. So does your software tie into, like I have Dentrix, can you pull like an address report for a specific, let's say I have a bunch of great neighborhoods that I know a lot of patients are coming from. Can you pull from Dentrix and practice management softwares?
Yeah, good question. So I don't directly integrate in. So there's kind of, some offices are a little standoffish, but they don't want to be integrated in. They don't want you touching their data. But what we have created are really simple instructions. So you run the report that I need. I just give you the instruction, takes you a couple minutes, you export that list, and we have you pass it over to us in a secure environment. And then boom, we pin drop all of those patients out. On the audit, same thing, comes back. And then we go back to your mailing map, and I actually pin drop out your postcard patients, exactly where they came from versus the areas you mailed. So it's pretty compelling after this of where you want to continue to mail, where your hottest growth is, like you mentioned. We also look for like new growth areas. Now, in some areas you don't have a lot, like Boston, for example, you're not going to have like these new subdivisions popping up. But a lot of practices across the country are in some of these growth areas, high growth areas. We add those. So if you mail 4 months later to that same area, I don't use the same old mailing list. I order a brand new one every time we mail. So anyone new that moved in that area, those 5,000 homes, they're going to get the card. And vice versa. If no one's living there, no one's going to get the card. So we really help with a lot of wasted mail where people, that's what's really interesting. We do all of this. 90% of the offices that contact me that are doing direct mail now, the most basic form, design, print, mail, cross your fingers. 90% of them actually pay less with us than what they're paying to do the most basic mail. Our business model is not to get rich on your first intro campaign. Our business model is to do it as least amount as possible, to get you savings, but to show you it works, because I know you're going to keep doing it. If you give me $1 and I give you back 3, 4, 5, how many times do you want to do that deal? And that's the transparency that I want, is you give me $1, I'll show you what we give you back. And not the stuff you hear in marketing, like, oh, it's good branding. Oh, it's good awareness. I like first downs and touchdowns. And that is patience and production for me. First downs and touchdowns.
it's all about repeat business. I mean, just like in our line of work, if that patient's not happy, they're not going to come back, and we want to keep that patient and their family for 30 years, and keep coming back for their recalls and getting treatment. Now, do you essentially come up with a treatment plan for the office? I want to get a new office I just opened. I want to get really aggressive and get those patients in the door, or a different office is a little less aggressive. Maybe they're just offering some free whitening or whatever. Or do you kind of customize it per that patient, that office's needs?
100%. So that's another, I think, real pro of us is we treat each office individually. Okay. It's not one size fits all. Your practice is entirely different than any other practice listening to this right now. So when we do that, we customize a plan. So kind of like you're talking about, I like to, on the front end, I want to give you an exam. Let me look down the mouth. Let me pin drop out your patients. Let me see where they're coming from. And then I put together a proposal. Okay. If you did our minimum order, this is what it would look like. If you did our average order, this is what it would look like, or an aggressive order. And I give you pricing for each of the 3 options. And I give you visual maps where you can see exactly what we would suggest. Now, I don't go to the lengths of creating your design content and stuff yet, because this is all done on the front end for free. That's what I do on a demo. Let's look at your area together. I'll do that free map IQ. I'll pin drop out your patients and give you recommendations on what I would mail. Obviously, you have the final say. If you want to tweak a few neighborhoods, no problem. But I'm just going to show you what the data shows. Now, the other reason why you want to be custom and dynamic on this is I have grand openings calling me every day. I might have a transition. I might have bringing on a new associate. I might have someone who just got implant certified and they want to run an implant campaign or Invisalign. So everyone's different. Whatever your message is, it might be different too. Maybe it's an in-house plan you want to get out to the community and let people know. So whatever that is, yeah, we build it around that. But my philosophy is I'm not like a hardcore sales guy. I want to look down the mouth just like you do as a dentist. Hey, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a couple cavities here and you need a crown over here. And this is what I'd suggest to do. And based on your budget, you decide what material, if you want to do our minimum order, average order, or be aggressive.
Yeah, for us, we started this in-house membership plan, and that's something that we are, we're having a bit of a capacity issue right now because of COVID. So once we can hopefully get back to some normalcy and we start, needing new patients, or that's going to be something we're really going to promote is our in-house membership plan to get those fee-for-service patients, or patients that lost insurance for they lost their job or they retired or for whatever reason. So I think that in conclusion here, you've really explained this really well and what you guys do, and it's not just about the piece of paper that you're mailing. It's a whole program that you're running, because as dentists we're so busy. We're running a practice, we're seeing patients, we have staff, we have insurance that we're dealing with, and the last thing you want to be or we have time for is sitting down and creating this marketing program. So that's where the pros come in, like your company. And a lot of offices, we need that new blood to come in. We need those new patients, because those are the ones that are going to recommend their friends and family and write reviews. And it's fun. It's fun to market and kind of diversify. So I really think that's really cool. The fact that you've kind of taken this old form of marketing and made it to a more modern era. So that's pretty cool. Any last words of wisdom or any last nuggets that you want to get across to those young dentists out there?
Yeah, maybe just a little about that new blood is, typically when you have these patients that have been coming to you for years, typically they don't have a lot of work, right? And that is one of the real nice things about new patients coming in, maybe that haven't been for a couple of years, that are going to have some of these higher cases and bigger treatment plans early on. But my general advice is, and I'll tell you, I'm not saying that direct mail will work for every single office out there, but I am challenging every office to try to control the variables the best you can and find what works for your office. And when you do find that, keep doing it, right? Like continue to grow keep the gas pedal down, so to speak, as you grow your offices. I've always been scared, and even at MVP, like our company, I'm constantly challenging our team to improve. We continue to roll out new technology, new products, because ever since my football day, I just remember walking in there and just, you can't become complacent. And in just your practice in general, in the patient experience of what's happening as new patients come into your practice, regardless of how they came to you, constantly, and it's easy to kind of fall in ruts sometimes or become complacent because you're good at what you do. But I guarantee, back to Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, although they still watch game film on Monday morning, right? There's something to learn always. But if you get to that point where you think you've arrived, that's a dangerous spot in my opinion. And I think that's why you're doing this. Obviously, a lot of people are listening to this and learning, and most of the people listening to this are challenging themselves. They are trying to grow, and that's why they're taking the time to improve, master their craft, so to speak. But marketing can be awesome. I see it all across the country. It can also, if done improperly, or you're trusting your brother-in-law, or, oh, I have a friend that this does this, you know what I mean? That's where I see more mistakes than ever. And specifically in direct mail, like you said, there's a lot more to just design and throwing it in the mailbox. And it almost costs, like I said, we do everything for less than a stamp alone. So for somewhere between 39 and 44 cents per card, we do everything. That includes postage, design, tracking, analyzing every call. So you can see kind of where we're at. Most of our competitors charge a lot more than us, but do a lot less. Mm-hmm. If it was as easy as just throwing a card out there, trust me, I would do it. There's a lot of man hours on our end, but I'm confident I can find success for your practice, and you can grow, get that new blood, continue to grow your practices. We're all just in it. We're chasing the dream, right? And you got to perform. It's a performance-based business. So anyway, that would be my last words. Keep pushing yourself. And you've already done hard things. It's not easy to open a dental practice. Like, that's pretty awesome, for most of you dentists out there. Like, enjoy those successes that you've had, but continue to push yourself for more.
I think that's a great message. Push yourself, never get complacent, always try to get to that next level. And when you're running a campaign like this, if you're not tracking and you're not measuring, then how do you know if it's working? So you gotta track the data. So, well, thanks so much for joining us. Again, this is Aaron Boone, the founder of MVP Mailhouse. If you go to Deals for Dentists, you can see his offer, which is a free MAP IQ patient heat map analysis and direct mail proposal. Also, you get free 500 referral handout cards. That's a $500 value with sign up of any package. And you get a $250 off your intro campaign of 10,000 cards. That's pretty cool. So if you're not a Patriots fan right now, you can tune out, but I got to ask one last question. Did you ever go up against Belichick, and what was that like?
No, actually I didn't. I had some good friends that coached with him, so I have some unique insight for him. So one of my best friends in NFL Europe, he was sent over by the Patriots. So I had Rohan Davies was my quarterback, over in NFL Europe. We won the Super Bowl, or the World Bowl, with him, the Super Bowl of Europe, basically. And I had also Chaz Gessner, who was a backup receiver there, kind of scout team guy. And man, they had some really inner insight. He said it was the worst year of his life being a rookie scout team with Belichick, because he demanded the most from him, and especially if you're on the scout team. I mean, he was in there before anybody. He made him analyze film. Like most scout team guys on other clubs, they're kind of just, you're off the radar, kind of off the grid. You just come in, practice, work hard, and hopefully get activated at some point. Right. But this guy was putting in twice as much time easily, he said, than any other guy. But there's a reason why he's successful. He does the little things that make a difference. And sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes, back to pushing yourself, he demands that from his team because he realizes it's a performance-based business, right? And so anyway, I never went against him, but no, I've really admired. I mean, for non-Pats fans, you want to hate them for sure because they won so much, but you have to respect it no matter who you are, what your background is. It's just so remarkable what they've been able to accomplish over the last 20 years.
I think we just lost everyone from outside of New England, but I'm going to send this recording to both of my brother-in-laws that are from New York. So, all right. Well, thanks so much.
I did get to play in Giant Stadium. That was fun. I did go there. So, but yeah, I never made it up to
Foxborough. Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, let's be in touch. That was really fun, and I think we learned a lot. And I think you're, helping. You're doing an awesome thing, and going to help a lot of young dentists out there. So let's be in touch.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.